You're listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paventa, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today I have a very interesting guest. It is Odell Bizzell. He is a coach, a business coach who is helping entrepreneurs, small business owners to double their income with public speaking. And public speaking is my passion. So it is a pleasure to have you on Ideas and Leaders, Odell.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Let's jump into it. All things public speaking.
Absolutely. So, Odell, you are an expert in public speaking, and you teach people how to speak on stages. So, how did you get there yourself? Were you a great speaker from the moment you were born, or how did you get there?
Well, my parents will probably tell you that I was a very active speaker. Never been afraid to speak in front of people. So I went into college and I wanted to be on television, but decided that that wasn't the right path. So I went more so into the public speaking aspect of communication. And when I graduated from college, America was going through the Great Recession. So there weren't a whole lot of jobs available. And my public speaking professor, Dr. Pond, he came up to me at graduation. He said, "Hey, what are you doing after graduation?" And I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "You should be a public speaker." Now, Elena, at that time, I didn't even know that people got paid to do that. I just thought that if you were famous, if you were, rich and you founded a company, or something like that, then people will let you speak. But Dr. Pond told me that day, he said, most public speakers are not famous. You just need a message. You need to be able to deliver that message well, and you need a market that's willing to pay for it, and you can get paid to be a speaker. And so that kind of took me on a path. I joined Toastmasters International to get my skill set good, to stop saying and ah and being more comfortable speaking. And then shortly after that, I sought out mentors and other people that were speaking. And I would say about 8-9 months after the conversation with Dr. Pond, I started getting paid to speak, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So what do you think? How to distinguish a good speaker from a really great and amazing speaker?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. So a good speaker, I think, is just anybody that has the willingness and the desire to stand on a stage to train people. They're just willing to do it. A lot of people, Elena, as you know, in your line of work, they're nervous. People, they have apprehension, they have trepidation. I don't know, man, not me, no. But if you're willing to do it, just get up and you're willing to do it, that makes you a good enough speaker a lot of times. Also, good speakers are usually really good talkers, meaning they can speak well, they can speak eloquently, they can speak passionately about certain things without having to think about it much. So that's a good speaker. A great speaker is a little bit higher on the totem pole, if you will. A great speaker, in my opinion, Elena, is somebody that has studied the art, that knows their topic and subject matter front and back. They can say it in their sleep. But also a great speaker is someone that communicates with the audience so well that the audience felt like they had a one-on-one conversation with the speaker. So that's how I would distinguish good speaker from great speaker.
Yes, I can totally agree with you that the contact with the audience is something that we cannot have from the very beginning, when we are not experienced and we're thinking about ourselves all the time. Oh, how do I look? How my knees are shaking, and about my clothes and everything, but we don't think about the audience and contact with the audience. This is what makes the speaker really great. And as you're coaching people, did you notice that there are some common mistakes that they're usually doing when preparing for a presentation, when they are crafting their message, and what are those the most common mistakes that you see?
I would say the first common mistake I would say, and a lot of people listening to this, if you have coached people that want to get into public speaking, and Elena, I think you can probably echo this, is that they either think they're better speakers than they really are, or they have no context on how to speak at all. So it's usually one or two pools. Oh, I'm good. I'm a good speaker. I just need a couple of refinements. And then you look at their video or you look at them live and you're like, you need a little more than a little bit. So I think understanding and being humble with the art form that is speaking, that is the first mistake that a lot of speakers make. They think, oh, I've been talking my whole life, so I that's not a big problem. But also on the other side, people not understanding that you can study this, you can study it, you can practice it, you can get better, you can get measurably better. So that's the one mistake I would say if we kind of lump them together. The other one I would say goes back to what you were talking about as far as engaging the audience. Whenever you're putting your speeches or your messages together, oftentimes we think, and I did this early on, that, oh, let me interject this amazing quote, this amazing story, this amazing whatever, without context of understanding how the audience will receive it. Being more in tuned to the audience and understanding what part of the audience that you want them to that you want to pull out of them. And so being able to touch their emotional points, being able to take them back to childhood. Hey, you remember when you were a teenager, when you were nervous to talk to somebody that you like? You remember that? Building in those points of engagement, I think, is another big mistake, because the more engaged the audience is, the more they'll buy into you, the more they'll receive your message, the more they'll remember. And then if you have something to sell, which I think every speaker should, for the most part, have something to sell, they're more likely to buy that thing. So those are the mistakes that I would say.
Yes, we definitely need to know our goal. What is our goal? What do we need to sell, or what is the end point? Because very often I think that speakers, they don't understand themselves, what is their main message, and then audience doesn't get it as well. And very often I hear that, oh, no one bought or no one signed up for something, but did you ask what was your main message of your speech? So yeah, this is so important. And so I think it is great that you mentioned the public speaking course and Toastmasters and many other places where we can practice and we can get feedback to become more confident. And what if we get to this level of confidence that we can get paid to speak, or at least start thinking about this? So what is your recommendation to our listeners? How can we start this path of becoming a paid speaker?
Well, I'll take it back to the advice that Dr. Pine gave me all those years ago. Knowing a market and having a message for that market. I'll also add to this, if it's something that you want to get paid. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, Elena, hey, Odell, I want to get paid to speak. That's my goal. I would submit this to you, and I want everybody to pay close attention because it's important. You have to find a market that is already paying speakers. It's super important. I know you've got your message. I know you've got your passion. I know you got your story, how you came from nothing, or how your parents came from somewhere else, or whatever your story is. All of that is great. Your talent is amazing. Your cadence, your diction, your tone, all that stuff is great. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at the end of the day. When people are planning events, they just want to know that you can fit the bill and do for them what they need done. And so, like I always tell people, there are two ways to get paid from public speaking. There's being paid to get on somebody else's stage for their audience. And then there is you either building a stage with your own audience or attaching to a product and service that you can present and make money from. So if you're thinking to yourself, I want to get paid, or I'm good enough as a speaker, I've seen other speakers that are worse than me getting paid. You have to think about which path you want to go on. If you choose the path to get paid on somebody else's stage, you have to see who are they paying, why are they paying. And this is the last point I'll add, is that you've got to get more so in the event planning business than the quote unquote speaking business. Because people hire speakers just like they hire a caterer for an event, just like they find a venue for the event. You're an itemized line item. And so if you understand that, if you get to know the event planners that plan events, then they can tell you, hey, we're looking for a dynamic presenter to get the crowd going at the beginning. Or we're looking for a closer to kind of tie a ribbon around everything. Then you'll get to know, and then you'll learn how to wrap your message inside of exactly what they're looking for.
So you're recommending to contact agencies, speaking agencies and event planners, those who are actually responsible for event organization, not necessarily those who are actually paying, let's say, for this, right?
I would say start at the event planner. So a market that I suggest is a market that I started in is like the college market. So if we're using the college market as an example, you have to think, why are colleges hiring speakers in the first place? Like, what's the reason? What's the goal? Just like you said, what is the whole goal of the presentation when you're actually on stage? Why would they hire a speaker? And so then when you start to ask that question and break it down, you say, okay, well, they're probably hiring speakers for these reasons. Schools want their students to stay in school. So there are different times during the year that they want to energize their students, where they want them to lock in. Okay, so these are the events that they probably hire speakers for. Let me find out who plans those events. And so the people that plan those events are probably putting the caterer together, finding the venue or what have you. And so that's in a college market, but you can do that in any market that you want to. If it's a sales group, a sales organization, well, when do they usually gather all their salespeople together? When you start figuring that out, it's a whole lot easier to ask somebody that could be planning the event or a committee chair or something like that, to ask, well, who do you hire speakers? And then, you know, if they're the ones that hire speakers, their job title probably hire speakers. So then you can go on a LinkedIn, you can go on the internet and seek out those job titles, reach out to those people and say, hey, are you planning events? And then see what they say. And then you'll get to know who is the initial contact, or who should I contact. And once you figure out who to contact, it's all a game of relationships and timing.
Wow, those are some amazing tips, Odell. Thank you very much. I think that it is very useful for our listeners if they want to speak. Now we have some steps that how we can start this path. And I think that speaking market in general, it changed a lot in the last couple of years. And I don't know what about your experience, but my experience was that I had my calendar full, but then in 1 week or so, it just got empty. No trainings, no speaking gigs, nothing. And I think that it is similar for, you know, many people who are in this speaking and coaching and training business. And a lot of things went online. those models that we are discussing now, I think that they changed a little bit. So what is your recommendation for speakers who still want to stay in the business during COVID times?
Absolutely. COVID was a blessing and a curse. Like you said, you had dates lined up, and anybody that's in the speaking business, you probably had some pending dates that may or may not have come through. And then it was just like, no, everybody said, you know what, stay at home. Nobody come anywhere.
Yeah.
You've all got cooties. So stay at home. So that happened to everybody. The recommendation I would say is own the opportunity, because what happened is that people got very, very comfortable with virtual presentations. Now, me being the type of speaker that I am, the type of speaker I've always been, I would rather speak in person. I think most speakers I talk to, they want to see the audience's face. They want to see them hanging on your word when you have a dramatic pause or when you make a point. That's what we want to see. And virtually is very difficult to do that. But I need for those of you listening to own it, own the opportunity, and know that more opportunities have come because we've proved as a society that virtual works. Now, it doesn't work the best, but it works. I mean, we've all been on virtual meetings. You might have had some presentations where there's a storm, or, you know, the Wi-Fi goes out, or it's buffering or something like that. So we all don't like that, but own the opportunity, get good at virtual, host some Zoom meetings on your own, do some things so you can get good on camera, just like on a physical stage, on a virtual stage. You can know, hey, I need to look at the camera. I can still pause. I can still do other things. I can still use a lot of the mechanics, but I just have to give a little bit more energy, and I have to make sure my internet connection is strong. But once you do that, there are more opportunities. And I'll add this as a business component. Before, and depending on how you price, before you might say, well, my in-person fee or my speaker fee is $5,000 plus expenses for an hour keynote. Maybe that's what you said 3 years ago. Now you can say, well, my fee is $5,000, but if you just want virtual, then so you can kind of downsell with virtual. You can do add-ons with virtual. There's a lot of different things you can do. So I would say own that opportunity and see, how can I make this work? Fancy up your setup a little bit if you can, you know, responsibly, and get really, really good at virtual, because it's not going anywhere.
Yes, I think that it is not going anywhere, because from what I see, most people got so comfortable that even if they can speak live, they prefer to stay online, because they don't have to travel, they don't have to go anywhere. And to be honest, myself, I don't want to go back to those times just before COVID, when I was traveling a lot. I was always with my suitcases, always packing here, packing there, unpacking. And I think that this is, many of us in the speaking business did that. Yeah, when we're traveling somewhere. Now we don't have to travel. We just log in and that's it. But still, I think that speaking online, it requires completely different set of skills. So what do you think is the most important in being really good speaker in the virtual setting? You mentioned the eye contact, you mentioned that we can still do pauses. So what else do we need to make sure that it's working and that is good in order to be an impactful speaker online?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to offer two things to answer this one. First, really get good at painting pictures with your words, because you have to understand what's different with virtual and in person. In person, even if they're not paying attention, they have to be there. I mean, they have to be physically present. Virtual, somebody could log in and say, hi, click off their camera, go do the laundry, go, run to the there's a lot of different things. So I would say get really good at painting pictures with your words. So instead of saying something to this point, it was 1992 and I was in class and my teacher said that there was a hurricane coming. All right, that's cool. But use word pictures. It was 1992 and the wind was blowing and it was hitting the windows of the classroom. And I remember walking in, and this is, if you don't remember the time, this was right before Hurricane Hugo hit. And we still went to school, even though as we were walking, the hat flew off my head. And I'm in the classroom and the teacher is trying to speak over the top of the trees rustling and branches falling up against the building. Use a lot more descriptive language because you have to understand that your audience might not be looking at you. They might not be looking at you. If you have a visual like a PowerPoint or something, they might not be looking at it. So learn how to paint better pictures with your words as you're communicating, as you're describing a scene. That's the first thing. The second thing is learning how to use those visual aids intermittently. So maybe you have a PowerPoint, but you click off the share because you want to mix it up. Like you have a PowerPoint screen in full, and then you stop the share and you say, all right, everybody. Now, when I talked about the 5 greatest questions that everybody should know, which one hit the most for you? Which one? And if you don't remember, the first one was this, the second one was this, the third one was this, the fourth one was this. What do you think? Be able to just switch the scenes. Whenever we're watching television, whenever we're watching something, the scenes often switch. So learn how to switch the scenes and use that to help you as you're communicating.
Yeah, this is really great, especially that I know that many people like to hide behind those PowerPoint slides, and they know that they are somewhere in this small window, or they even can turn off the camera because PowerPoint is the most important thing, of course, but they forget that they are actually the message and the main thing here. Otherwise, we could just send an email with what is written on the slides, and that's it. So I think it is great that you mentioned just to turn off PowerPoint from time to time and be there full screen, show your face, show your facial expressions, your gestures, your emotions, because this is what people will remember, not some letters on the slides. And what else can we do to practice just to become better speakers? Do you have any tips for people who are maybe not professional speakers yet, but they want to become better and better? What exercises can we do to practice this skill?
Great question. I want to submit this. Professionals practice more than they perform. So if you aspire to be a professional or you just want to get more comfortable, speak. Log in Zoom, talk to yourself, go online, talk to you about a message that you either want to speak about or a message that you're passionate about. Use the things that you learn from your coaches like Elena. Use those things. Use eye contact. Act like you're looking at somebody. Vocal variety. Do all that stuff. Continually rehearse it, because then once it's time, it's like you've been there before. And another cool thing about Zoom, and I've told my clients this multiple times, you can create a virtual demo reel if you just, depending on how many friends you have. Now, I don't know, some of you may not have lots of friends, or maybe you don't have people that you can call on, but most people have about 10 people in their lives, even if it's online, you can say, hey, just come through. I need to practice. And you have them on Zoom. And maybe you have one person kind of helping you out, and they can change the view. So maybe it's speaker view, and then maybe it's gallery view. And so you can actually give a presentation. You can call it 10 minutes, 15-minute presentation. And then you can take that footage and you can review it for yourself, because that's something else. All speakers, you should look at your game film. look at yourself presenting. You're going to cringe. You're going to cringe, but look at yourself presenting, see how you can get better. But also, as you get better, you can use that footage as a virtual demo reel. You can use that footage as practice for content. So if you have 7 steps to success, maybe you can whittle it down to 3 steps to success, or whatever that is. But continually do it. Remember, professionals practice more than they perform, because when the performance comes, it's like they've been there before.
Yeah, great tips. And the last question I wanted to ask you, Odell, is about people who maybe they don't aspire to become professional speakers, but they have businesses. We have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to us. We have a lot of business professionals. And what would you recommend to them? How can they use public speaking in order to boost their business, to sell more of their products or services?
Oh yeah, if you're listening to this and you don't consider yourself a public speaker, or I don't want to stand on stage and present and do anything like that, I'll tell you this. If you like money and profits in your business, you should integrate public speaking somehow, some way in your business. I believe that public speaking is the greatest marketing medium of all time. And here's what I mean. Our whole lives, we have learned to admire, we have learned to respect somebody that's standing in front of a room, that's standing on a platform, saying something to us. Our whole lives, we buy into education, we buy into religion. Why? Because of public speaking. That's it. And the understanding that comes as a result of public speaking over the years. So when I say it's the greatest marketing medium of all time, I might not trust a video online, Elena. I may or may not. Depends on how good it looks. But if I'm standing in front of you, or you're sitting in front of me, and you're getting to know me, and you're getting to take up space in my spirit and my energy, you could be moved a lot easier if I have a compelling message. And so if you're an entrepreneur, I would suggest using public speaking in your business. Now, you might not use it as a platform presenter. Maybe you don't want to be the person on Front Street standing, but you could put together an inspirational event, an informational event that gives people information about your business. Maybe you hire a speaker, or maybe you hire an MC to kind of facilitate it, and you could do it that way. Another way you could use public speaking is not necessarily using the skill set of platform speaking, but you could interview people. Interviewing is a subset of public speaking. You're talking to somebody, you could interview your clients. You could create a whole podcast or a whole YouTube channel for your ideal client, interview them, your past clients, and then that'll attract more clients to you. But they hear and see you speaking, they're more likely to buy from you, because we buy from people we know, like, and trust. Public speaking is the fastest way to get people to know you, like you, and trust you.
Those are really important points that you mentioned. And I think that we have so many opportunities right now. We have all those social media platforms, podcast platforms, and many places where we can start speaking, start sharing our ideas almost for free because it is available. And I think that we just need to break this shyness that we have within ourselves, that, oh, I'm not a speaker. I think that everyone is a speaker, and we just need to start sharing our ideas, and that's it. Thank you so much, Odell. It was really great pleasure speaking to you. And where, if our listeners want to contact you, want to ask you additional questions, where can they find you?
Yeah, I would say the best place to find me is my website, publicspeakingprofits.com, publicspeakingprofits.com. On that website, You can download a free mini course where I talk to you about how you can use public speaking to start turning your annual income into a monthly income. And I talk about a lot of strategies that we kind of touched on. And on that website, you'll find an event that I have coming up. If you're listening to this recording before then, it's going on March 18th through the 20th. And in that seminar, I'm going to be talking about how you can literally turn your annual income into monthly income using public speaking as a strategy, using it as a marketing medium. So I would love for you all to connect to that if it makes sense. I'm on social media, Odell Bizzell. I'm the only Odell Bizzell on there. So you can just search my name, Odell, B as in boy, Izzell. And shoot me a question. Let me know that you heard me on Elena's podcast, and we can connect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Odell. It was a pleasure having you on Ideas and Leaders podcast. Thank you for sharing your public speaking tips and wisdom.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.